What's happening, everybody? Today, we have had the privilege to be at the Fit Body HQ with the man, the myth, the legend, Bedros.
Howdy.
Howdy. Thank you so much for having us. I'm truly honored for you to have us in your beautiful studio, in your office, and we're going to talk about a lot. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about past. We're going to talk about the power of being an immigrant and what that looks like. And when you grow up a little poor with a little bit of edge, how that can be a massive advantage or it can keep you stuck for years.
Sure.
And how you have worked through that. But first, for the few people that might not know who you are, give them a little bit of a backstory about just kind of who you are and why this life is so important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, let me start off by saying thank you for the opportunity for putting me on your show and exposing me to your tribe.
Absolutely.
I never take that for granted, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm the Cinderella Man. I'm the immigrant edge. I'm the American dream.
That's right.
And earlier we were talking about twisted, funny stuff.
Yes, we
because
were.
I believe that if you don't keep your humor about you, especially as an entrepreneur, it is very easy to go into deep, dark places of depression, anxiety, overwhelm, and even considering checking out. Quickly, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but I am the Cinderella Man. I'm the immigrant edge, the American dream. My father decided in 1980, when I was 6 years old, that we were going to escape the Soviet Union and come to the United States. Now, everyone says, well, you know, he obviously had family here, and that's why he had nothing and no one. He knew a friend of a friend, and that guy who lived out here in California, which is why we ended up in California, told my dad's friend that he could stay with us, he and his family could stay with us for 1 month, and that's it. So, you know, myself, my brother, my sister, who are significantly older than me, I'm the oops baby, so they're each 15 and 17 years older than me, and my mom and dad, family of five, stayed with one guy for 1 month in one bedroom in 1980. June 16th, we came to the United States, and we didn't speak English. We didn't understand the culture. Dad had under 150, 60 bucks in his pocket. But we knew we had freedom and opportunity. And my dad was, even though he was a member of the Communist Party, he was such a pro-capitalism mindset. He wanted to be an entrepreneur. And of course, in a communist environment, you can't be an entrepreneur. Everyone works for the system.
No voice.
Right? No voice. No, not allowed to dream. Use your creativity, your imagination. So he knew he wanted this American dream for his kids. So he was 45 years old, and of course I was 6. My brother was 19. My sister was 22. And so we were eating out of dumpsters that were, you know, my dad would find dumpsters in the back of grocery stores, and these dumpsters, giant ones, were filled with food that was expired, so it couldn't be sold.
Still good.
But still good. And so, you know, to me it was a treasure hunt. My dad, once he discovered that, well, you take the smallest person in the family, you push him into the dumpster.
That's you.
That's me. And you go, hey, fish out the eggs and get the bread and get the cheese and how about the milk? And look, that lettuce, the leaves are bad, but if we peel away enough of the bad leaves, there's a fresh little tiny head of lettuce under there. And so, you know, I always jokingly say on these interviews that I was the breadwinner. Right? And I was the breadwinner of the family because the rest of my family, you know, they were doing paper route and 2 in the morning and then working at a pizzeria in the afternoon, pumping gas at night. And they did whatever they could in that first month, especially because all we had was a month in this guy's apartment. And it's not like he had any money. He was like doing us a huge favor.
Of course.
So we had to quickly come up with money to start living on our own, in our own apartment. And thankfully there was Section 8 housing where the government assists you. And so Section 8 housing, of course, is not the cleanest, most sanitary housing to live in as far as apartments go. And so these apartments were lice infested, roach infested, and plenty of times I've woken up with roaches running all over me. And one time I was scratching my head. I was 7 years old by this point, and my mom discovered I've got lice. But again, every penny counted in my family, so we couldn't afford lice treatment. And so in the lack of resources, you have to get resourceful. And when you don't have the resource of money to buy lice treatment, my mom had my dad siphon out gasoline from a parked car, and she washed my hair with gasoline to kill the lice.
Wow.
So the reason I say I'm the immigrant edge and the American dream is I learned so much from that adversity that we went through. You know, again, where you don't have resources, you have to get resourceful and kill the lice that's in your kid's head, right? If you don't have food, you can't just starve. You go find the dumpster and you dig it out.
100%.
And those are the things that I use today where I've become the American dream to build this, you know, almost 800 location Fit Body Bootcamp gyms worldwide. We hit the Inc. 5,000 list 4 years in a row now. Only 12% of companies do that. We hit the Entrepreneur 500 fastest growing franchises twice now. And all this is happening as a byproduct of the lessons that I learned as a kid. You never give up. You don't have the resources, get resourceful. You look at adversity as an advantage. And you keep this happy disposition about you. Like we had no Christmas the first 2 years, but we still sang and celebrated, even though we didn't have a Christmas tree or couches to sit on. We just made it happen because we're in this great country.
It's perspective, right?
Perspective.
It's perspective.
Yeah, and if you can reframe,
agreed.
If you can reframe the negative into a positive in your life, then you're good to go. And I think it was Norman Vincent Peale that said, he said, there's only one type of person that doesn't have problems in their life. Because people go, man, I wish I didn't have problems. Well, we had the problem of not having food. We had the problems of having lice, but no lice treatment. We had the problems of not having money and having the problems of, as my dad said, we would run out of money before we run out of month. There's only one type of person who doesn't have problems, and that's dead people.
That's right.
And man, guess what? I'm thankful for my problems because that means I'm alive and I'm around to solve my problems. So in a nutshell, that's me, the Cinderella Man. I'm very blessed.
And I've always really bonded and had a lot in common with people that come here with nothing from other countries. I'm from here. I was born here, but we didn't have anything. I lived in a tiny one-bedroom apartment with my mom and my little brother in the same room, and we didn't have a fridge. We had a cooler.
Yep.
Wasn't quite the same, but it created this grit and this resilience and this ability to problem solve at 4 and 5 and 6 years old. To by the time I was 12, like I was on my way. I was working. I was going from place to place, hustling. Like the hustler was born.
Yeah.
Because of that pain, I wouldn't change a thing.
Right.
It has built who I am today to be able to take those like full-blown punches to the face that happen in business often.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is nothing. I have a beautiful life. This like that meeting was fire. This is nothing compared to what I've been through.
Yeah.
So for me, like I've just always connected with that. And when you can be resilient and resourceful over and over, I really believe you can accomplish anything.
That's it.
It's those fears that keep you stuck, and they might not even be your fears. You may have like brought on the fears of your parents, especially for a lot of immigrants that come here, the only way out is education.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to go to school. You have to do this because that's the way out. But if you're not built for that, like then what? And I was a terrible student. Like just terrible. I had every ADHD thing you could think of. I was diagnosed severe dyslexic. This book right here, I had to speak it into Rev, the software, because I write so terribly. Yeah. And it finally went to my publisher, and they're like, finally, we got like something we can actually work with. So my brain is literally built to be an entrepreneur. But I was told my whole life that I was,
Sure.
I was this kid. I was never going to amount to anything because I was so severely, I had every learning disability there was.
It's funny you say that, Andy, and here's why. I had this weird epiphany one day on an airplane. A lot of my best epiphanies come on airplanes, and I realized why. My phone's off. I'm tired of reading whatever book I had with me, and so you have time to kind of think and process shit, right? And so the epiphany was that we might put ourselves in a box of I'm introverted or I'm always going to have fat genes. I'm supposed to be fat because I come from the Armenian culture and I've got fat parents and fat siblings or whatever. But I realized that really when we're born, we're given like a book with blank pages. The only thing is when we're born, someone else has the pen because we're babies, and that the person with the pen says, all right, well, I'm going to dress little Andy in this, and blue is going to be his favorite color.
That's our rule book that we come with.
Right? Exactly. And they go, well, you know what? I'm afraid of spiders, so I'm going to teach Andy to be afraid of spiders.
That's right.
And, I'm afraid of heights. No, that's dangerous, Andy. Don't go near that. And I very quickly realized that all these weird fears and doubts and habits and behaviors are all inherited because someone else was writing the pages in my book. Don't run, you'll get hurt because they ran and they got hurt. Don't take that risk because I lost money, you might lose money. And at some point, because obviously as babies and children, we're supposed to have the pen in someone else's hand, and they feed us, they change our diapers, they put clothes on us. We can't make those decisions. But as we get older, I noticed, and this is the epiphany that I had, is we spend our first 20 years with the pen in someone else's hand.
Agreed.
And everything they're writing is through the filters that they've experienced the world through. And then at some point we realize, wait a minute, I think I feel a little differently. We spend the next 20 years, from about 20 to 40, trying to unravel things.
Agreed.
And it wasn't, I'm 44 now, and it wasn't until I was about 40, 41 that I felt like I can take the pen back and realize there's a lot more blank pages going forward and write how this narrative's supposed to go.
So powerful, too.
Right? And that to me was my biggest epiphany. And, you know, any of your tribe members listening to this, if I can give them that 20-year advantage by saying, look, take the pen back now, work through your problems now, and you decide what your narrative is. You decide if you're extroverted or introverted. They don't. That's the answer.
You're you.
Yeah.
And I've learned over time, exactly like, and that was put so beautifully, is that might not be mine. That might be somebody else's, and I don't need anybody else's fear. I have my own.
Right.
Right?
I got enough of my own.
I got enough of my own stuff to work through. But what I realized is those are mine, and I get to work through those in my own way. And when I stopped caring, when I went all in on this whole thing with marketing and social media 3 years ago, I didn't have a website. Like I had an entire real estate firm, an investing firm. But I didn't have anything out there. And I would wake up in the middle of the night and feel this like weird panic, like the market was leaving me behind. And I went all in. And I found this guy, Gary V, who it was just like, that guy's got something, you know? Mm-hmm. And something in me shifted. It just shifted. And I was like, I have so much inside of me. I need to give it back. There's so much. But what's interesting is there was that fear crept in of, what are people going to think?
Yeah.
And then like, but you don't care. I'm like, that's right. Okay. That's right. Okay. But I had to keep reminding myself because my friends thought I was crazy. I'm posting 5 times a day. And this was stuff like positive, trying to help people. He's like, Andy's lost his mind. What I realized, and I did a full like journal about this. In my whole life, when I start something new, I go all in. I was one of the youngest wine sommeliers in the country at 21 because I was at a wine tasting and fell in love with wine. 6 weeks later, I'm in Bordeaux trying to become the young. It's like, that's how my brain works. It's first to sixth. Yeah. There's 0 gears in the middle.
Love that.
So for me, I just punted it all. And I'm like, I'm just going to do this. So when my friends or family or my wife now says like, you're out of your mind, this is not going to work, I'm like, I know I'm going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then I just go all in. Because when you go all in, something shifts in the universe. Like something opens.
Doors open up. I'm convinced of that. If you're kind of keeping a toe out, trying to play it a little safe, I think the universe is like, yeah, you're not all in, therefore I'm not going to open all the doors.
That's
you
right.
go all in, and I'll open all the doors. No one says the doors are going to be easy and fun to run through.
No.
I mean, I'm running through some painful walls and doors right now in my life and in my business specifically. But on every side of those painful doors is like greater growth and expansion and opportunity and income and impact and influence.
And these new gifts, and they're always like right around the corner. I always tell people, I'm like, don't stop before the miracle happens. It's there, it's coming. And my favorite thing to do is I'm addicted to growth and expansion. As a person, as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a business leader, I love to reintroduce myself to a new version of myself. And I collapse this time into these 90-day experiences that sometimes I have to become a different person to even accomplish these goals. Like, I didn't know how to podcast or do any of this stuff. I had to learn. Yeah. I had to become a different person than I was 2 years ago to be able to do what I'm doing right now. And it's going to continue to happen for the rest of my life because I love it. I like the pain. I have a huge tattoo on my side. It says, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. But I like it. The pain for me is the fuel. It's the gas.
Love that.
So you've used some terms, and I love this about being a spaceship and being a crop duster.
Being a fighter jet.
Fighter jet. Thank you.
Crop duster.
Fighter. I would love for you to walk my audience through why that is so important because it was really, really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, another one of my airplane, ironically, epiphanies. I realized one day that, you know what, if I were in battle and if I were a fighter jet, I would want to take a squadron of fighter jets with me to battle. Would you agree?
100%.
Even if there was 5 airplanes and 4 of them were fighter jets and one of them was a crop duster, that crop duster, because it doesn't belong in battle, and of course airplanes and fighter jets have to stay in a squadron in a pattern, the fighter jets would have to slow down to keep up with the crop duster. And when you're going slow in the air, you're likely to get hit by a surface-to-air missile, right? And so fighter jets have the ability to go higher altitude, much faster. They are armed with weapons to cause mass destruction and to create an outcome, to win. Whereas a crop duster is designed to fly over a field of corn and, well, dust it with chemicals. And so I realize in life that every single human is born as a fighter jet. And I can prove that. I can prove that. See, when you're born as a baby, you come out crying because you just want that fresh gulp of air, oxygen in your lungs. And you take that first air and you will fight for it, and you're screaming for it, and you get it. And then your parents take you home and they put you in the crib, and guess what happens next? You get hungry, you start screaming. It's such a high piercing noise. I remember when my son Andrew, we first brought him home that night, the first night, he screamed, and I jumped up and I was ready to fight someone because I thought there was someone broken into my house. And I realized, okay, it's the baby. It's the baby. And so this little fighter jet knew what he wanted, and he got it. So I got the little kid up. I'm like, hey, wife, get up. I think he needs a boob. Here you go. He needs a boob, right? And then he eats, and we wipe his mouth and put him back to sleep. And 2 hours later, he's screaming again. And I get up because I'm still not used to a baby screaming in the room. Okay, now what does he want? Oh, he had a blowout. He needs diapers. So again, he got what he wanted. And so as babies, even as children, we're curious, right? And we're running, we're sticking our fingers in light sockets, and we can just barely reach a tabletop, but we're reaching for it, and we're trying to grab what's there. But what do people tell us? Stop that. Be careful. Watch out. You might get hurt.
Burned.
Don't do that. You're going to get burned. That's wrong. Be nice. Slow it, right? You got to crawl before you run. Why? Why do I have to? And so slowly we get neutered into becoming crop dusters. And then we grow up, and there's low standards of expectations. No parent would ever tell their friend that I want my kid to grow up and be an average kid of average health.
Turns my stomach,
right?
actually. It does something weird to my body. Even hearing you say it, I'm like,
No.
average is like, it's the kiss of
It's
death.
horrible, right? You would never say, I want my kids to have average health or be in an average marriage or have an average income, live in an average home. Yet we turn them average, hence crop dusters. But yet we started off as like fighter jets that got what we wanted because we went for it.
And resilient.
And resilient, right? And so I believe that whether it's in the workspace or in the entrepreneurial space, if you don't go back to your fighter jet standards, and if you don't have high standards of expectations of others around you to become the fighter jets, you will always live that mediocre or average life.
Agreed.
And most people are okay swimming in the sea of mediocrity. I'll prefer to be a fighter jet on my own than to hang out with a sea of crop dusters. And that's kind of how I see things, is the world is divided up, to me, in my eyes. And these days I've got this weird gift now. I can walk by and be crop duster, fighter jet, crop duster, fighter jet, fighter jet, crop duster. And the crop duster can become the fighter jet, but are they willing to? That's a whole different argument.
And it is work. Like, there is a ridiculous amount of work that goes into everything. And it's funny that you brought up, like, being a kid, because I use this analogy a lot, and I completely agree with you. Like, when you're a kid, you don't have to crawl. I walked at 6 months. My mom said I crawled for like a day, and I was up and walking. I was like a freak of nature. She said, you were gone. And like, that's how life can be. Yeah. And I haven't really changed that much, but I've got 2 amazing kids, 3 and 5. They're my world. They're my little wild animals. They're my just pride and joy. But I got to watch them stumble, fall, eat shit over. Like they would like, but that's what happens. And then pretty soon you're walking, and then you're running, and then you're jumping off the couch, and then your fears are all gone that you had 3 months earlier. That is the same when you're an adult, but you forget. So we like to forget. And the part of average, like, I get goosebumps. Like, it does something to me because I was supposed to be average. Yeah. I was told I was going to be average. I was also told I wasn't going to do much. There was a counselor in high school that said, Andy, it's really good that you're an incredible athlete and you're an attractive young man. I'm like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Basically, you're not smart.
Yeah, she punted everything else. And I mean, I would, like, the first probably like 5 years of me kind of being out, and I was like a Muay Thai fighter because I was anger in me because of all this stuff, right? Sure. I had all these stories that I was made to believe true. They're not. And then I went out to the workforce, and I'm like, and my first thing was like, I'm going to make more than all my teachers. I did that. Then I'm going to make more than my dad. Like, I had these little things, and that's what drove me, but it wasn't a healthy drive. Because as soon as I achieved them, I was happy for like 8 seconds. I was like, what's next? So for me, it's finding for you what is your driving force, and some of it's teachable, some of it's DNA.
Yep.
But what happens to you in your past, I think, can be all the fuel you'll ever need. Or where you want to be in the future, that person's chasing you. And if you're on the right path and you're chasing each other, I just believe it to be true. And I have these non-negotiables every morning. I was actually doing some research on you, and yours, I think, like pretty similar. Mm-hmm. The first thing I do in the morning is I go into deep meditation for 10 minutes. As soon as my brain wakes up, 3, 4 in the morning, it sets the tone for my day. My phone is still on airplane mode. I sit in gratitude for 5 minutes. I work out, greens, healthy food, and my 2 little wild animals wake up, and I'm playing with them. And then like the nanny shows up, and we get the house ready, the food, and like I get the home and the castle set, and then I go off to hunt with a clear mind. So I don't know, for me, like those things really set the tone for where you're going to go and how you're going to accomplish it. How is your thing that you do in the morning shifted from when you were like maybe in your 20s or 30s into like how you're really tackling stuff now?
You know, for me, the big shift happened when I had this massive anxiety attack, and I was probably 37, almost going into 38, and I had a massive anxiety attack. And I felt anxious before in life. Who hasn't?
Of course.
That's the journey of life. But to have a full-blown anxiety attack and you don't know what it's supposed to feel like, I was like, shit, I'm 37 and this is how I die. Because I thought it was a heart attack.
I was on the freeway, had to pull off, and I left in an ambulance and I was in ICU for 6 days. I had a similar thing happening. I thought I was going to die.
Yeah. And so in that moment, when I thought I was having a heart attack, I accepted my death. I felt regret only for the fact that I won't be there to walk Chloe down the aisle and to teach Andrew how to become a modern day knight. And I wondered, well, who's going to take care of my wife? Interestingly, within 2 to 3 minutes, as all the symptoms went away, I mean, like my heart was racing, I was sweating, my arms were tingling, I was tunnel vision, I could hear the thug lug in my ear of the blood pumping. And as all those symptoms went away and I was just left in a sweaty puddle, I'm like, I think I just cheated death. And still, like, my naive mind was, I think I cheated a heart attack. And of course, instead of going to the doctor, I went right to work because I still had shit to do.
Sure.
That night I tell my wife, like, hey, listen, I think this morning I cheated death. And she goes, what are you talking about? I said, well, I think I had a heart attack.
She's like, you got to go get checked out.
Yeah. So, of course, first thing in the morning, we're sitting at the doctors. They're doing all the EKGs. And they go, dude, listen, you didn't have a heart attack. All your metrics are fine. Are you stressed? And before I could answer, my wife's like, yeah, he's a mess. He's taking NyQuil to go to sleep and not Vicodin to go to sleep. And then wakes up and has Adderall and pre-workout and coffee just to get out of that foggy-headedness. And so the doctor's like, well, next time you do see me, you are going to have a heart attack unless you do something about your stress that's giving you the anxiety. So in that moment, I had that, it's time to man up moment and step into my leadership role. And so that's when I reached out to my friend Craig Ballantyne, who wrote an amazing book. It's usually sitting around here, but the book is called Perfect Day Formula. And the whole idea of the book is if you can, and he talks about this, he goes, if you can win your mornings, you will win your day. If you win the day, you will win the week.
Agreed.
And I said, Craig, I need your help in creating a morning routine. And here I thought, my day started in the morning. Turns out my morning routine starts at night.
Night before. That's right.
So today, my mornings start out around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, when I go into my iPhone and write down the 3 or 4 things that I'm going to dominate. I call it my attack list. The things that I call my 5%. 5% of everything you do in business really moves the money needle. Everything else just has to get done. You got to pay your taxes.
Agreed.
You got to write payroll checks. You got to make sure there's toilet paper in the restrooms in the office like this. But I don't have to be the one doing all that shit.
That's right.
So I write down my attack list the night before. Now I've done a mental dump. Then, of course, go to sleep at 10 o'clock so I can wake up between 5 and 5:30. I never hit the snooze button because if I do, I'm telling my subconscious mind that I'll take 10 more minutes of interrupted sleep over getting up and dominating my path. When I wake up, I don't go scrolling through Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or my emails because typically Mark Zuckerberg is not sending me a message saying, hey, I'm giving you $10 million.
That's right.
And typically, there's no one offering me money in my emails.
That's right.
Instead, it's typically bad news or someone's living a life or acting like they're living a life that's better than mine, and now I get sucked into that. And so I just go and take my shower. I have my 30 ounces of water because Sean Stevenson said so. See, I'm pretty coachable. I'm not that smart.
You and me both, brother. Like that has been it's been the steadfast my whole life. I'm coachable. I listen.
Yeah. So I surrounded myself with good people, and Craig Ballantyne's, look, you need a morning routine. You got to have water. How much water? He goes, talk to Sean Stevenson. Hey, Sean, what kind of water do I need? Well, you need this kind of filtered water, not out of a plastic bottle. Great, 30 ounces first thing in the morning, protein shake, then coffee. Then I grab my laptop and I look at my list of 3-4 things to do, turn my phone upside down, on silent, push it away from me because I'm human. I get tempted to check my phone, and the notifications would obviously get me to check. And then I go through my attack list. By this point, it's about, and in the mornings also, as I'm playing with my dog Cookie while I'm drinking my protein shake, I go through I have a little gratitude ritual. I tried meditating. It didn't work for me. It wasn't my thing. I just think about 3 or 4 people that I'm grateful for in my life, and then I'll text them. And it's the most selfish thing I do. It's not for them. It's me.
I know, but it's so powerful.
It is. It is. And I'll text them and I'll say, like, hey, Andy, thank you so much for coming out here and interviewing me, exposing me to your tribe. Just extremely grateful. And when you get that text from me, while you're like, wow, B is such a good guy, he thought of me this morning, etc., you're going to reply at some point and go, hey, man, I really needed that. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I feel really good about myself because I just got a dopamine hit because you told me how awesome I am. And so it's a two-way street.
And it's like an energetic bond that you create like that. And it's a little selfish, but it's good, though.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So by 9 a.m., I'm in the gym. I've already done my things on my list that are the 5% that move the money needle. And I'm in the gym working out, and I get here by 11, shower, and I'm ready to do stuff like this. And that's pretty much, you can set your clock to me. The only difference is on weekends, I'll still wake up at the same time. I just don't necessarily work off a list or whatever. Now it's hang out with the family. It's still bonding. It's still critical stuff. It's 5% that I can do. No other guy's going to come in and, hang out with my kids, right? And so I'm pretty structured in that way. And again, Jocko Willink talks about this. Craig Ballantyne talks about this. The more structure and discipline you have, the more freedom you have, right?
Discipline and consistency with the structure around those 2 words is the freedom.
Amen.
Especially when you're an entrepreneur and you have a lot going on. You have a big ass company you're running. Things will come at you on fire. Yeah. And if you're not prepared, if you don't have those things in place, those steadfast non-negotiables, you're off.
Right.
And my wife can tell. She's like, nope. What'd you miss? Something's off. Yeah. She can tell because it's those routines that give you all the freedom. Yeah. And for me, it's really powerful. And what I really wanted to touch on too is this book is incredible. It's on fire. You guys have a ton of press right now. I'm super stoked for you. It's a great, great book.
Thank you.
If there was 1 or 2 chapters that you really just wanted, like, the world to know about, they're so important to you, and it was really important for you to write them and get them out, what would they be, and how would you kind of frame that for them?
Yeah, really good question, man. So in the book, I talk about the 6 pillars of leadership and peak performance, and it's not just for entrepreneurs. Obviously, the examples I use are through my entrepreneurial career and how I almost ran Fit Body Bootcamp into the shitter in 2012 and 13. I'll be brutally honest and hold no punches back. I'll do it here, and I do it in the book.
Of course.
I was a very ineffective leader, poor at communicating, indecisive, where decision-making was concerned. I was emotionally unstable, meaning I would yell at my team members or I would give them the cold shoulder. There was nothing in between, right? And actually, I say team members because I'm so used to calling everyone here team members. They were employees back then. And in the book, I define employees as people who clock out a little early, clock in a little late, and do the bare minimum to maintain employment. Team members who are people who are very clear on the vision and the mission.
For the tribe.
Right? And they play the game to win. That's a team. And I just happen to be the team leader. So really, when I had that big anxiety attack, which I thought was a heart attack, and of course started to man up. And by the way, people always ask me, well, what does man up mean? Is this only for men, not women? I think, hold on. This is not man up. It's human up. As humans, we need to step up to our higher levels of expectations. I see humans, we can go walk in the parking lot here of our building, and you'll see folks with cars. It's a mess on the inside and on the outside. There's food wrappers and Starbucks, empty cups from Starbucks, and soda cans and clothes that they worn 3 days ago that's still in the back seat. And if your car's a mess, the way you think and process is a mess, and your desk is probably a mess, which means your relationship is a mess.
And your bedroom is a mess, where you sleep. It's all energetically tied.
Because how you do anything is how you do everything.
Agreed.
And so the 2 chapters I would really talk about is pillar number 1, which I believe is like chapter 3 that I talk about in the book. Pillar number 1 is self-discipline. Everybody wants to be a great leader because, hey, I'm the CEO because it says president on the corporate paperwork.
On the card, right.
Yeah. Listen, I got good news for you. Everyone wants to be a leader. You're already a leader. That's right. You just by me leading your business and your family and your finances to shit. I was a leader. I was just an ineffective leader, and I was leading my business and my life to shit. I'm now a more effective leader, and I lead from the front. And the first pillar of becoming a leader who's respected and who's going to have a strong organization that's profitable is self-discipline. Do the work. Be a servant leader. If I expect my team to wake up on time and be here and be present and have attention to detail, I better wake up on time, be
lead
present.
From the front.
Right. That's it, right? And so self-discipline is one chapter to read. And of course, the other one is, and I kind of gave it away, was emotional resilience. And I believe that's pillar number 5 in the book. And here's why. As an entrepreneur, you're always going to deal with the suck factor. Like, it's guaranteed. The suck factor 100%. Will come. Even with the best of intentions, as I grew Fit Body Bootcamp, the great state of California came to me in 2011 and said, hey, we're going to fine you $500,000 because you've been operating as a franchise, but you're not a franchise yet, but you've been selling locations. Dude, I was just selling licensed locations and giving protected territories. I thought I was doing good by my owners because I wanted to make sure that Andy and Liz don't have competing locations so close to each other.
Sounds fair.
Just the fact that I was giving a protected territory put me in the category of a franchise, even though I was a license.
And you were completely out of compliance at that point.
I was out of compliance.
Right.
So the state of California says, here's what it's going to cost. Now, the $500,000 they wanted to fine me might as well have been $5 billion because I didn't have that kind of money in 2010 and 11. Right? So the suck factor will always come. You could either go into panic, the sky is falling, why are people doing this to me?
Victim mode.
The victim mode. Or instead of emotional chaos, you can have emotional control and go, you know what? How can I fix this? What's the lesson here? And we went to and all the attorneys were like, oh, California's anti-corporations, anti-franchise, anti-this. Well, is someone still in charge? Is it a human? Yes. And the human probably has some level of
still negotiate.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, listen, there's this thing called CrossFit. And CrossFit is a licensed program too. And they put CrossFits next door to each other and they compete and usually get adversarial. I just wanted to make sure that the people running a Fit Body Bootcamp had enough distance between them, so I assigned them a territory. It was my fault. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Great argument.
Is there anything I could do to make this right? They said, yeah, don't sell any more locations. We won't fine you the $500,000 and then become a franchise. So at the end of the day, I could either listen to the attorneys and my inner voice and go, shit, the sky is falling. California's not going to work with me because they're anti-big business, blah, 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 which is all bullshit.
It's all hearsay. None of it was actually factual yet.
They're humans.
That's
they,
right.
if you plead your case and you truly are honest and come from a place of ethics,
I agree.
You're going to go, oh, okay, CrossFit does that. Yeah, you can look that up and see, okay, and this is what you were doing. Okay, got it. So don't sell any more locations, slap on the wrist, go. That's what we did. We became a franchise. I became a more effective leader. And by the way, leadership is not a light switch. People who read this, they go, hey, you didn't just install all 6 pillars overnight. It took me 3 years of doing the work on the 6 pillars that I teach in there to become effective, and every day I earn my role as a leader. And so it's not a light switch, it's a dimmer switch. It sometimes slides down.
Sure, of course.
Right? But outside of that, man, all 6 pillars are important, but the 2 of self-discipline and emotional resilience, I believe, are the foundation to building everything else.
You've had some massive growth in the past 7 years with yourself personally, and you can just tell from the timeline. Here's where you were at, and you were scared, and you were full of this. Here's how you were leading the company. And, fast forward to now, the book's incredible, but you got clear. Yeah. The leader got clear on how you wanted to be a man and how you wanted to lead, how you wanted to be a dad, I'm sure, as well. All those things play into who we morph into. Yeah. And you can either stay the same, and for some people, that's great. But for me, it's literally the kiss of death. Yeah. And it's just cool for me to watch and then to finally actually meet you in person and see it. It's real. You're the real deal.
Thank you.
And there are people that are all through our space that you meet them, and I'm like, you are nowhere near who you are putting out.
Andy Frisilla and I were texting about that just this morning.
Yeah. He's a great guy. I would love to get him on the show as well.
There's so many fucking imposters in this space.
It's intoxicating. Yeah. And everybody's a coach. Everybody has a course. Everybody's a this. And I'm like, there are people selling real estate wholesaling courses that never closed a deal and taking people's last $5,000. I'm like, you should be put in fucking prison. And it kills me because I have a deep code of ethics, just deep. Because it goes back to just, how I was raised and how I just kind of grew up. And that kind of leads me into my next piece is, what part, of how you grew up, what part of your childhood, if it's maybe one thing that really was a pivotal shift, you know what, I can really kind of trace back to this moment or this time in my life that I shifted. And that's what kind of made me who I am today.
I would probably say the arguments between my mom and dad in my dad's tailor shop. So about 3.5 years in to coming to the United States, my dad bought a little tailor shop, and it had a very bad reputation. The previous owner had a gambling addict.
He's a shyster.
Yeah. He was just a mad gambler, and he had this addiction to gambling. And so he would do anything he could to just do a shitty job on the work that he did for his clients and get money and gamble it away. And so, but my dad got a smoking deal for Joseph's Tailoring in Anaheim, which is still there, but run by someone else now. And so my dad knew that this business had a bad reputation, but he got a smoking deal for it. Now he had to fix the reputation over time. One way to do that was someone comes in, they go, hey, I've got a broken button on my pants. He says in his heavy Armenian accent, you wait inside the dressing room, I fix your button, I give back. And he wouldn't charge him anything, right? And my mom, of course, would raise holy hell. Listen, we just bought this. You leveraged everything. You borrowed money from people. How can you not charge the guy for the button?
He was adding value first.
He was adding value first.
Big thing.
He didn't, back in 1983, 84, he didn't know how to articulate that, but I think his gut told him that if I just come with the giving hand, add value, that guy's going to go tell more people that, hey, Joseph's Tailoring is no longer a place that rips you off. They're a place with great reputation, and the man just does. He comes with service, integrity, exactly. And so I saw that over and over again. Then I would see that same guy bring a friend in, and I would see that same guy bring his suits in instead of just a button. And now there was this form of reciprocity that was setting in. Gee, you did a free button for me. Let me introduce you to 3 friends.
I just got goosebumps, man. Like,
yeah, and
that's the real shit.
That's it. And here's a crazy thing. And you heard of New Kids on the Block back in the day?
I have.
So when New Kids on the Block, my dad is going to love this piece. I'll show it to him. New Kids on the Block came to Disneyland back then to do a concert. And by this point, about 3 years after owning the business, so now we're 1986, 87, his business had gained such reputation as a tailor that when they needed, New Kids on the Block needed their costumes readjusted or whatever for their show at Disneyland, they were referred to my dad in Anaheim.
What a difference,
And
right?
they came in, and he took all the measurements. Until this day, he's got an autographed picture of the New Kids on the Block in his dining room.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he's 85 years old now, obviously retired, et cetera.
That's
but
awesome.
You walk into his house, let me show you something, and he'll show you that.
But that's pride, though. Like, he did the right thing from day one.
Even when no one was looking. And that was the big lesson I got, is do the right thing, come with service, even when no one's looking. Because it's easy to beat your chest. And I do that. We all do that. Look, we just bought $250,000 worth of Toys for Tots, and I'm publicizing it on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Well, that's all great. There's also shit that I'll do that I'm not publicizing. It's do the right thing, even when no one's looking. And I saw that from my dad, even though my mom didn't agree. My dad did right. And I think that stayed ingrained in me. And you want to hear something crazy?
I do.
An hour ago, we're changing our FDD, franchise disclosure document. And an hour ago, we were talking to our attorneys. And after that, I pulled my sales team in, a team of 7. And I said, hey, guys, guess what? I've got great news for you. And they go, great news, what? I go, you guys can't sell any more franchises until January 15th. I just stopped franchise sales. Even though my attorney said, you can sell them, you can take people's money, but then when the new FDD comes out, franchise disclosure document that says now the build out of a Fit Body Bootcamp is more expensive, because now we've gone to wood walls and, we just more high end.
Yeah, it looks incredible.
Yeah, right. We call it Fit Body Bootcamp 4.0 model. We had to adjust what's known as the item number 7, how much money it's going to take you to open up your Fit Body.
That's right.
And so that range was smaller. Now it's going to be bigger.
So you have to disclose it, obviously.
You have to disclose everything, exactly. And so the attorney's like, hey, look, you can sell and take people's money, but then you should probably give them the new FDD afterwards. I'm like, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're going to stop sales. I'm not stupid. I told these guys, hey, keep everybody warm until January 15th. And in fact, when you close everybody from now on January 15th with a new FDD, you'll get a $500 bonus on top of your commissions.
Because you kept them on, because you did the right thing.
But I'm doing the right thing now because I don't want to take someone's $34,000 to buy in a franchise and then they realize, well, wait, I need an extra 50 G's. I want a refund, right?
And it tarnishes your brand and your name because you didn't do the right thing.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that get caught up in the commas and zeros and they forget about what actually got them there. And I love the part about where you came from, where you're like, look, you know what? I'm not healthy. I'm not happy. Yeah. I'm going to be a personal trainer and I'm going to help one person. Just that intention shifted everything.
Yeah.
When you go from me to like, I don't give a shit, I want to help people, it shifts. Yeah. Like there's an energetic shift and it just, something changes. Yeah. That happened to you. And now it's scaling, which is really cool to watch.
Yeah. And, are we going Are we going to miss? Are we going to lose people? Are we going to miss sales in the process? 100%. Like every rep was like, I can think of 2 people I'm going to lose, and the next guy's like, I'm going to think, some guy's buying 7. He goes, we might lose him. That's okay. That's okay. What I don't want to happen is for that guy to buy in and then realize his 7 locations are going to cost him $250,000 more to build out than what we really disclosed. And then he has to make this decision where do I continue or do I not? And I signed a lease and now he has to try and get out of that lease. I don't need that in my life. That's like karmic justice that I don't need.
I agree. And the biggest problem that most people get in my industry of real estate and real estate investing and buying buildings is people that don't disclose things that they know factually.
Yeah.
It's literally the biggest lawsuits that ever come out of it. You have knowledge of something, you're not telling the other party on purpose, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So just do the right thing.
That's it.
And what is it? It's going to be 20 days, 30 days?
Yeah.
And then that's the thing is once you have them bought in, they're already bought in, right? They're already in. But then they find out that you could have done this and not told them, and instead you did this just to get their back, they're going to love you even more.
And it's worked out that way every single time. And I know it'll work out that way again. But it's, again, doing the right thing every single time has never taken me down the wrong road.
I listen to my gut like crazy because of exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel right, and I'm asked to go on shows every single day. And sometimes it's just like, I don't feel right about that person. Like it's something's off. Yeah. And exactly probably like what you and Andy Frisella were talking about this morning. Yeah. I just had this gut reaction. I'm like, that person's a shyster. Yeah. Or they just don't line up with what I believe in. You know what I mean?
No, alignment with values. And that's okay too.
Yeah, there's no judgment in it. It's just not for me.
I'll tell you this, man. When I was a younger entrepreneur, so I'm 30 or 40. I wish I was 34. Actually, I don't wish I was 34. I'm really happy with my life.
I like being my age.
Yeah. When I was about a decade younger, 34, sometimes I would let my greed glands lead the way instead of common sense, right? And I've been in business partnerships that were toxic that I later realized that I justified my way going into it because, we're going to make money and we're going to help more people, but I was aligning myself with people that I really didn't believe in. And so these days I've learned to suppress my greed glands, and it's done me well. Yeah.
It's kind of pushing it out like a little bit further because we all get that. It's human nature. It's like that business partner is going to bring us, $10, $30 million clients. I want that. I need that because we can grow faster. We can help more people, exactly like you just said. But they're kind of a scumbag. And I either learned the hard way, which has happened before, and, now I have one business partner. I had 6, and I've slowly got rid of all of them, and it's worked out great. Yeah. Like, I just stay in line with I stay in my lane, basically, is what it all kind of boils down to. And I choose my gut. This has been incredible, my friend. It was so great to have you on.
Thank you.
And if you guys are not following him, you need to follow the whole entire movement, follow the show, follow the podcast, Empire Show. It's on YouTube as well, right?
It's on YouTube under my name, Bedros Keuilian, and also on all the podcast
platforms.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Podcast platforms like Stitcher and iTunes and all that.
Perfect. Where can they find the book? Where can they buy the book? Where can they find you on all the different social media platforms?
Good question. The book's available at any bookstore, airport bookstore, Amazon.com, or you can go to manup.com and learn how to get the book. And when you buy the book from manup.com, I'll also give you a $2,000 leadership course absolutely free, and all the information's there.
There you go. And if there's somebody who is in your life and you're listening to this podcast right now and something is speaking to you, the voice inside of you is speaking, you know what? That book might be for my brother or my mom or my aunt or my uncle. If that voice is talking to you right now, do yourself a favor and give that gift to them. I've just learned over and over again in my life, when that happens, listen. And go buy the book, and then go hand them either a hard copy or however else it comes audible. But it's important to give those gifts and to literally pay them forward.
Amen.
So again, Bedros, thank you again, brother. Appreciate it. And stay tuned. More fire from this gentleman, I'm sure.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, brother. Jackson, Jackson. Grayson, Grayson. Those are my 2 little boys. Because they think that I literally sit down with superheroes. So that's what I tell them. So when they're a little bit older, it's like superheroes are real. These are the real people. Yeah. These are real superheroes. So there's a whole thing I'm doing with them as they're young.
Dude, how great is that?
It's been really
good for
cool
you
so
for
far.
doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
you're building little modern day knights and entrepreneurs.
It's so important. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many modern day, what's out there.
Love that. Well, hey, great meeting you.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.